If you put up 10 stories a day that are all different, there's 10 different mindsets, 10 different personalities that get impacted. Because someone might not be able to connect with you over the gym, but they'll connect with you over interest rates. Maybe they don't connect with you over interest rates, but they'll connect with you over Crocs. I don't know. But having that call to action.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a special guest that I actually met through one of our private clients and fell in love with her. I meet a lot of people, and when I can spot talent, especially unicorns, you immediately want to build a relationship with them. And she's one of those people, her vibe, her energy. But what really impressed me about this woman that you're about to listen to is she handles operations and for the BRIX Real Estate team, but has a background in running an ISA division. She's also done ISA work herself, which means for those that are not in the real estate industry that are listening to this, it's inside sales, like there's cold calling, there's lead nurture, there's follow-up with a lot of different leads. And she understands marketing at a high level. It's very rare you meet these types of people. And in the real estate industry, we call that a unicorn. So I'm excited to have this conversation with her about all things marketing, converting leads, and how to effectively run a team that's growing quickly, that has actually 3x their business in less than a year in a shifting market. On top of that, they also have a seasonal market where their winter months are below what?
They're like minus 30.
Minus 30. So for all of you Californians and all of you people listening, like in Florida or across the world, that's really, really cold and they still get business done. So welcome to the show, Sydney Everingham.
Thank you so much, Raquel. That was a very nice introduction. Thank you.
Well, I want to dive right into it. So did you know, like when you first started this, did you know that you were going to be running a real estate team?
Absolutely not. I was thinking back to that the other day. It's thrilling. Every single day is kind of a different adventure. And it's definitely not something I saw myself doing, but it is something I see myself pursuing because of the people that I get to impact along the way.
Yeah. And so how do you manage multiple hats and growing? I mean, people have a hard time with that whether they're like building up their own real estate business, building their own team, they're wearing multiple hats, or even when they get hired, right? If we were to look at an assistant, like they're constantly having to grow. How do you actually manage wearing multiple hats?
That's a really good question. It comes down to prioritizing and understanding the buckets that I choose to put my time in. So about 3 years ago, I got very consistent with doing Sunday self-reviews in a journal. And I'll break up my life into 10 buckets, which includes the hats I wear: marketing, fitness, my friendships, my relationships, my reading, anything that moves the needle forward in my life. And I have a specific journal for this, and I'll rate myself out of 10 every single week. So I can start to collect data on where I need to pivot and step it up in my life. So sometimes my friendship bucket looks really full, but my personal bucket looks weak. Then I know to pivot that week and invest in myself. Or sometimes my reading bucket looks slow, but my BRIX bucket is overflowing. Then I need to pivot and read and learn some new skills and bring it back to my BRIX bucket. That's what works for me.
That is so good. I think sometimes people, especially when they join real estate or, like I said, a startup or a growing company, we forget that it's like what we do, whatever it takes. And you do it very well and very gracefully. What advice would you give to somebody who's listening out there that may be in a support role that's being thrown all kinds of things and projects and initiatives that you wish you would have had this advice?
The advice I would like to go back and tell myself is, like you said, have grace and patience. We all like that instant gratification. Amazon shows up the same day, Skip the Dishes shows up 40 minutes later. And it can be a little discouraging I guess on social media, you see all these people doing awesome things, but hold grace with yourself. And as long as you know you're going to sleep at night and you've A, made someone's life 1% better, or B, made your life 1% better, that's a win in my eyes. You've impacted the world at that point. So having grace when it comes to everything and just being patient, right? Not everything is instant, especially building a business. Nobody ever stepped into something and built it in a day. Never, ever in history. It takes years. So, as long as you're intentional with what you're picking up every single day, with who you're impacting, it will come with grace and patience.
Oh, so good. How have you been able to support Riley in business and maintain, a great relationship? This is like for those that are, working with their significant other. Are there boundaries that you guys have set between yourselves and like the rest of the team? Because, you guys are partners in the business and outside of the business.
Yeah. That I'm really glad you asked that question, because it can be quite intimidating to step into business with your partner. It is seriously the best decision I've ever made. And with systems in place, transparency in place, it's definitely possible. How we move about it, we've been able to leverage, which was massive for us. So actually, Riley and I don't really talk about work now very much. It's more, we have that Andrew, our senior partner, who helps take away a lot of that work talk. It does still happen. We run a business together, but there are boundaries. There's no work talk in our bedroom. We kiss each other very passionately before we go to the office, so that it also sets the tone for our relationship. And one thing we do that I absolutely love is we'll write each other letters bi-weekly usually, and we'll write what we appreciate that person is doing, an area we'd like a little bit more support in, what we love about that person. Because in the day-to-day, yes, we work together. You might find it hard to believe. A lot of people are like, don't you get sick of each other? Sometimes, Riley and I don't see each other a lot, even though we work together, or it's very work focused. So having that letter that we get to refer back to in a special book we picked for each other, I can go back and know how he feels. And every Friday night is protected for us. So after we're done work at 6 p.m., we come home and that's protected for us.
Ooh, I love that. Okay. So as you continue to grow and evolve and grow this like rocket ship, what's one important lesson that you've learned along the way in your journey?
This one is huge. And it's learning how to understand, not even work with, to understand and appreciate different personalities. I was very, very, very red. I am very red. And there's this guy on our team who's very blue. He brings so much to the team. I would take a bullet for him, probably at like a limb, but for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how to get on the same page or why we weren't getting through to each other. It was at a point where I was ready to give up the relationship. And this gentleman has so much to offer, and I see how he carries himself. And I knew there was something so special that I had to appreciate in him. And I dug deep into myself to figure out what that was. And this book I read actually completely changed my perspective. It's called Surrounded by Idiots, but it talks about how to work and appreciate the personality styles and how, in order to have a successful team, you got to have them all. So it was really coming back onto me and how I can learn to work with this human. And now our relationship is so authentic. I warm up every time I see him. And I found that all his numbers and analytics and stuff, every team needs that. And I appreciate that about him. And that was something I wish I learned earlier. And I guess the second thing too, it's learn how to control your emotions too. Lots of things come up, lots of stressful situations, lots of people you might not be familiar with dealing with, but learning how to handle the emotions and how to move forward with grace in every situation is something else.
when you talked about that, I love what you said, that every successful team has a bit of every different type of personality. That is so true. But yet in the industry, or when we're building company, we think that everybody is like us because it's easy for us, because we know how to deal with our own selves, or we know how to deal with people that are motivated just like us. But that's so far from the truth. That's false, because in a brokerage or in a team environment, in a real estate industry, we deal, and even clients, we deal with all walks of life, right?
Right.
There is not one client that is exactly the same as we look back on, and no one transaction that's exactly the same. That's why you said when we first started this, everything is different every day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's what makes it really awesome. I think, and when we're building these types of business, is when you can actually have the adaptability and the flexibility. I think two characteristics that CEOs definitely have that are super driven, and be able to deal with stress and different types of personality, I think makes it a huge win for them in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. When you can determine who you're speaking to or who you need to impact and how they process information, and you can determine that as fast as possible, then you become very valuable to that person.
Yeah. So let's narrow that down into skills. What skills have you learned in running this team and have adopted, as you guys are running this team of 25 now agents?
Mm-hmm.
What skills do you think is important?
Definitely perspective. That has been my biggest skill that I've had to learn in this is learning the skill of perspective, seeing it from other people's point of view, understanding maybe how they're thinking, just understanding humans in general is definitely something. And it's a skill. You have to read about it. You have to listen to podcasts about it, and you have to get in front of people to understand it. The second thing would be confidence. And that's a skill too. As much as it's like muscle, you got to work at it, and you're going to get rejected a lot in this business. But when you can learn to get comfortable and in fact, to appreciate the rejection, that's where you start to shine. And that's something that's developed as well. I love getting told no. It is my favorite thing, because it is an opportunity for me to do better. And I need to assess the situation and figure out how I can do better, how I can pivot, and how I can now teach that to my agents. A lot of time people don't even say no. A lot of agents get this confused. They say not right now. And not right now is not a no. That just means you have to build the relationship. You now have to start to understand this client until they say yes right now.
That leads us to talking about converting leads, right? You have had such an experience in this ISA. You started as an ISA, I think.
Yeah,
and
full
you
time.
got told no a lot. And I'm
Yes.
sure you built a muscle for rejection. You built a muscle for challenges just with even the skill of being an ISA.
Yes, it definitely, it humbles you in the beginning. And then it starts to become kind of like a chess game. That's what I like to look at it. Every time I have my deep work dedicated where I prospect, it's very intentional 2 hours where I'm undistracted and I just call and build out relationships. So yeah, that came with a lot of rejection. It came with a lot. I've been told to go F myself more times than I can count, but I've also had the opportunity to help 160 families get into homes from online leads. So with all the FUs, I've helped change 160 lives, which I'd get told to go F myself 10 times over if I knew that these families were turning a key into a home they were going to have a baby in. They were going to make nice home cooked meals for their families to come over. And that is truly, truly changing lives. And that's what I remember for every FU. And it's kind of like, okay, on to the next. And the universe must hear it, because usually after that awful call, I have a really good call the next one, and someone who genuinely wants to chat. And that's what it comes down to is you're not calling to sell a home. Under no circumstance are you trying to sell a home over the phone. You are calling to arm these people with enough knowledge so that when it comes time to pull the trigger, they are prepared and they trust you to help them.
That is so good that you brought that up, because I think a lot of times, whether you're door knocking, whether you're doing an open house, whether you're cold calling, or even following up with leads, I think we often think we're going to sell this house right now, or we're going to sell them a house, or we're going to list their house today. It's like we're going to ask them to marry us without even building rapport. And then we were upset at ourselves and disappointed because we didn't have an appointment, or we didn't get them as a client because we had wrong expectations. What advice would you give to somebody that is scared to call their leads, right? Especially in this market today.
Mm-hmm.
What would you like? What tips would you give them to say, like, look, you could really just got a call?
I think the couple things here. The introduction does not have to be long. And I see a lot of agents almost overspeak in the introduction, and it throws the person on the other end off. I personally, when I pick up a phone call, I don't know the number. The last thing I want is to hear someone for 40 seconds tell me why they're calling. Something I've had a lot of success with, and I'd love to share. Hey, Raquel, this is Sydney with the BRIX Real Estate Group. You signed up on our website. I wanted to thank you. That's our introduction. It brings people's guards down when the last thing they hear is thank you. Usually they're a little taken back. They're like, oh, yeah, thank you. I'm like, no problem. You've been browsing Calgary. Is that where you want to be in the future? And I'll say that future part because then it immediately takes the pressure off of buying a home right now. And usually they just start talking. That's one thing, is do not come off with like a 40-second introduction. Also, earn the right to ask people when they want to move and what their price point is. You know, we, in 3 minutes into a call, we haven't earned the right to ask people's financials. And I see it a lot. People, are you pre-approved? What are you pre-approved for? It's like, we have not earned the right. And this is the advice I'll give you for calling. Every single dial I make, I pretend like it's my parents on the other end, because I want my parents to be so taken care of when they sell their home. I don't want them getting effed over. I don't want them working with a realtor that does not have good integrity. So every single time I try to remember that I'm speaking to somebody's family, I'm speaking to somebody's parents, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, and they're a real life human.
So good. So good. So what are like some of the mistakes besides like them asking, for financials? What are some of the mistakes that you see why agents have a hard time converting leads today, especially in today's market?
Yes. For starters, I believe asking how you are I never do that in a call. And let me tell you why. So if somebody says, I'm fine, that's how your call is going to go. They just told you that call is going to be fine. They're fine. Mm-hmm. But if you don't ask that question, you have the opportunity to make that a great call. And somebody that we don't necessarily know, what I do is I'll ghost call places and I'll see what people are doing. And that's how I learn what not to do. So when I get asked, how are you? It's an immediate hang up, because one time I did do that. Okay. I did do that. And the guy's brother, unfortunately, passed away the day before. How do I ever come back from that? How do I ever move forward with a real estate conversation? I now just become a therapist on a guy I don't even know. And I've made him relive a very traumatic moment. And under no circumstance did I have the right to make him relive that traumatic moment. And I feel that stuck with me for a very long time. So I never ask how they're doing. And it's just, I went back after that day and I listened to conversations where I asked it. And every single time you give people the power to set the tone for the call. You immediately lose control, because if they tell you they just had a fine day, a bad day, a good day, you take away the opportunity, like I said, to make it a great or an excellent call. The second thing I would say to avoid, ask them about their lifestyle before you start asking them about homes. Because lots of people will get turned off when you start asking about homes. It's very salesy right out of the gate. Raquel, talk to me a little bit about your lifestyle. Do you like biking? Do you like being close to the mountains? Do you like being close to amenities? That allows you to look like the expert when they tell you what they like and you go recommend the communities that have all of that.
I love it. Okay, let's talk about objections. Like you could hear Sydney's passion for this. I'm like, oh my gosh, she should just teach a course to every single agent on this, because like everyone needs this, especially in today's market of like how you close, how you move your pipeline, how you nurture leads. But let's talk about objections. How do you handle objections? How do you teach your ISA, your agents, how to handle objections since you've been at this for a while?
I tell them when they get an objection, they're on the right track, because if they're getting objected, means that person trusts them enough to start having a real estate conversation and knowing their knowledge about it. So when I get objected, it's my opportunity to prove to them that I know what I'm talking about. Their guard comes down a little bit when they object you, enough to test you. So I love it when I'm objected, because it's a chance for me to show that I can shine and put them into a home that's going to serve them. Another big thing is a lot of agents I hear will be like, yeah, I understand. You gotta recognize the objection. This was advice given to me by a coach 4 years ago when I started. You grab the objection by the horns and you address it, because if you don't, it's going to come back up later on in the call. How is somebody supposed to trust you negotiating a home if you can't handle an objection up front? And so I always move forward with it, feel, felt, found. Raquel, I totally feel the interest rate thing. I personally am experiencing interest rate hikes in my mortgage from month to month, and it's intimidating. So I totally feel that. Here's what we found. Actually, when people wait out interest rates, what do you think happens to the market when they come down? All the people who've been sitting, waiting for interest rates to come down are now overpaying on a home. So we can either take $100K over a home that might not be worth it, or get you into a fixed or a variable, whatever would work best for you. But then you're actually not paying over for a home. And then kind of moving forward with that feel, felt, found. Here's what I feel. Here's what we've found. Yeah.
That's how I feel, found. Say that one more time for our audience.
Feel, felt, found. So you feel the pain with them. Raquel, I totally feel your pain. I have felt your pain in my personal mortgage. I see it happening. My mortgage has gone up $1,000 a month because of interest rates. But here's what we've found. Clients that sit and wait it out, they're actually paying for a home that isn't even worth what they're paying. I don't want you to be in that position. I don't want to put you in that position. So I'm actually going to arm you with enough knowledge so that you know what you're walking into on both ends.
Love it. Love it. Oh my gosh. I love it. This is gold. And I'm sure some people are going to re-listen to this. So let's talk about marketing.
Okay.
What are some key things when it comes to marketing? Obviously, you've got the conversion down. Now you're responsible for, making stuff happen when it comes to marketing for this BRIX team. What are some key things that that have, like, when it comes to marketing that generates leads today?
Okay. That's an awesome question. I'm glad you asked that, because marketing, you guys, if you do not have a digital footprint by the end of the year, please make sure you do. I'm 25 years old, and I can tell you that in the next 5 years, if you do not have a digital footprint, no one's going to know who you are. And in this industry, the more people that know your name, the more families you're going to serve. So please, if you don't have a digital footprint, let's get on that. I encourage everyone to get on that. But as for generating income and helping impact people off of marketing and social media, I think it comes down to the intent behind what you're posting. Before a post goes out onto our BRIX page, into our community, onto my page, I always ask myself, who is my audience and who will be impacted by this? And if I don't have an answer for both of those, I'm not posting it. So understanding the intention and who you're trying to impact. Second off is this, I will seek humility here. There is a time when I was not responding to my DMs or my comments on my posts. It didn't seem super prioritizing to me. And then one of the agents on my team 2 years ago, she's like, Sydney, when people are taking the time out of their day to connect with you, it is, imagine like you pouring your heart out to someone and them leaving you on red. Like that is such a jab. And the way she framed it, it really changed my perspective. So now there's set blocks that I have, and my community on Instagram does know this now, and I'll go respond to people on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in a set time, but every single DM and comment will get acknowledged. And that is a huge thing, engagement. And that's where you're able to have conversation. Lastly, this one doesn't get talked about enough, but stories are your best friends, even over a post. Nobody responds to a post, but a story is a direct call to action into your inbox. When you have a story up, it is a direct prompt for somebody to DM your inbox. And that is a conversation. So that is your call to action, your stories. Your posts are just there to build the foundation, to build, you know, the bones of the house, but all the framing and all the furniture and all of that, that's your stories and how you're engaging in your DMs. So if you put up 10 stories a day that are all different, there's 10 different mindsets, 10 different personalities that get impacted. Because someone might not be able to connect with you over the gym, but they'll connect with you over interest rates. Maybe they don't connect with you over interest rates, but they'll connect with you over Crocs. I don't know. But having that call to action throughout the day.
I love how you put that. And would you say that, is there a strategy? Because that's so true. I always say stories will win over posts in your feed right now, because the moment that they even put an emoji and like it, it's your opportunity to have a conversation. And guess what? Like that's where conversion happens. That's where relationships are built, is when we have conversations, even if it's through the DMs.
And be the one to respond, you guys. Like I said, I didn't 2 years ago. So I bet you there were 5 other people that were. And they, you know, I've gotten humbled many times. There were people that reached out to me over to buy a home with us, and I didn't respond for 2 days. And I see they bought a home with another realtor. And you know what? It was my loss, and we didn't deserve to work with them because I wasn't on my A game. So make sure you're on your A game and you're responding, and you know, you're asking questions about them and about their lifestyle before they start asking questions about you. You know, you always want to be the one in control in your DMs.
Since you have a marketing brain and we're talking about stories and they're pretty much live, like on the spot, which makes them very attractive to people. It's like a lot of behind the scenes or what they're doing. Do you have a strategy, or would you recommend a strategy when it comes to story?
Yeah, I do. It's not super strategical, but it is in real time. So, you know, it comes down to being authentic with what you're doing. And it's really easy to throw 15 stories up in a day when so before I do say I'm going to the gym, before I lift the first weight, I'm snapping a pic. Then I'm putting it up after my workout. When I get my coffee from a local shop, before I take a sip, I take a picture, because then I have it and I tag the local business. Before I start reading my book every evening, I'll take a picture of what I'm reading and throw it up. So it's all in real time, but right there's 3 different people that are going to connect. Someone who likes coffee, someone who likes to read, and then someone who likes to work out. So as you're going about, for the realtors out there, am I one of those people that says realtors or realtors? I always feel like
we give you grace because you're from Canada.
Okay. Hey. So, yeah, just if you're a real estate agent out there, take people along your day, you know, from the minute you wake up. Like I'm posting about coconut pulling from the minute I wake up, because that's the first thing I do. If you start your day with a lemon water, show that, and then getting in the car, and then your first house and what you're grabbing for lunch, and your second house. And then maybe it's a FaceTime call from your wife or husband, but that's in real time. Do it before you start anything. And that will give you a collection of stories throughout the day, just your day to day. That's the strategy I go about, because then I'm not overthinking it. Then I'm not posting it like 5 days later when it's not relevant. And it allows me to collect throughout the day. So just before I transition into an activity, I kind of have a cue to take a picture.
See, I could talk to this woman for days. And as you can see, why she's a unicorn. She's talking about marketing. She talked about converting leads. And we haven't even like dove into other things that she does for the business, such as even hiring and finding talent. Like it's so crazy, right? But like if you had to start all over today, you guys are on your path to lots of volume. If you had to start all over today and building a team, knowing what you know today, what would you do first?
First, I'd sit down and just so you guys know, notebooks are my best friend. I have 9 of them since I started BRIX. I could probably sell them for a lot with all the conferences and your play bigger notes that I took. Nice work. So I would sit down with my notebook and I'd get really clear on who I'm going to impact, whether that's agents or the community, because you can't do both as one person, but if you want to do both, you need to leverage, right? So there, I solved something right there, just in my first page of my notebook, like figuring out who I'm going to impact. Second, building something people can be a part of. I'm going to ruffle a lot of feathers when I say this, but if you're trying to start a real estate team under your own name, please go read Ego is the Enemy, and it'll tell you why you will never be able to build a team under so-and-so and associates. So get very clear on building something that people can feel like they're building with you.
Oh, I just got chills when you said that, because like, yeah, get that book for sure. And you will know within a couple of months, couple of years, you know, when it's ego driven, you know, when the team or even the brokerage is surrounded by ego and not really truly culture, like you feel it or it eventually will break.
Absolutely. So building something that people can come along the journey with you, right? You want to go, if there's a war, like you want people in battle with you to follow you there. So that's the second thing I would do. The third thing I would do, bless Raquel forever for helping us with this, but get really clear on my superpower, Riley's superpower, everyone's on the team superpower, and then roles and responsibilities, leverage and delegate. So I was trying to run, like the ops and finances mixed with marketing and lead gen, and it was hiring. It was a mess. And then, we did a bunch of exercises and figured out, okay, who shines in this role? Who shines in this role? Who's going to stay in this lane? And I think having a very clear roadmap for your agents and for your leadership and for yourself, and hiring out and leveraging everything else that is not your superpower, and just understanding where everybody else's lies. That is so key.
That's really hard to do. It's easier said than done, especially when you've got somebody that's as talented as Sydney that can wear lots of hats and can truly like have the capacity, but eventually it'll break by her saying like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. Mm-hmm. Because something's going to fall as you guys start to keep growing, and you guys are triple the size. You can't handle everything as much as we love to say we can. Right. And it's like I said, it's really hard to do when you actually are good at a lot of different things, or you do it better than most of your team members.
And I want to touch on that a little bit too, because that comes back to the ego thing again and finding a good team. Like, you want to really scout your leader and make sure they have what it takes to delegate and assign those tasks if that's what needs to happen for the company to grow. And that shows a true leader. If someone's trying to keep everything on their plate, and they don't trust their team to leverage and delegate, then it all crumbles. And for the team leads out there, actually, someone talked to me about this the other day, and they're like, when I refer one of my new agents a sphere of influence and they don't close it, like I get so mad. And you got to be graceful, because everybody makes mistakes. And that when you leverage and when you delegate out, be prepared to lose some of it. And it's okay to lose some of it, because nobody ever leverages and delegates out without mistakes, ever. It takes people a little bit of time to learn. So that was a big thing. Is some of my best friends of 12 years are building a real estate portfolio right now. And I don't personally sell real estate. I'm licensed, but that not my lane. I stay in my lane. So I've delegated that given it to people on the team to work with them. And that was so hard for me because that's like family. But, I trusted my team, I trusted my people, and they got it done 10 times better than I could. So I think it just comes down to having trust in the people on your team. And also, if they do make a mistake, they're human beings, hold grace and help them figure out how to move forward with some more strategy next time.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. You definitely want to leverage or else you're going to have a business that you're handcuffed to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you also get the opportunity to not take it back, but for them to learn, because anytime that you take something back because you don't trust somebody, you rob them of the opportunity to grow in your organization. Right. And then the other piece to that would be, if they screw up and mess up, you can't be at fault for that because that's on you for like not having proper training.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like you were big on that, even with the ISAs, like if they messed up and they didn't do it exactly right, it's still on the leader of like, hey, maybe I didn't train them right. Maybe I forgot that step.
I'll give you an example. We just hired a secondary assistant. She accidentally sent out wrong numbers to 25,000 people 2 days ago for the market update. That's on me because I didn't show her where to get the good numbers. Under no circumstance was she in trouble, even though she hit send. Like, I gave myself trouble and found an area for improvement. So, it does fall back on you when something happens. And that's where leadership comes in, like owning up to how you could have served that person better.
Yeah. You have so much talent. And I always tell you this, you are definitely a unicorn in this business. I'm like, where can I find Sydney's? Like, once you meet her, you're like, oh my gosh, where can I find her twin? And you almost like look at everybody else going like, how do you not have all the skills that Sid has? Like, how do you have an operational hat, but then a marketing hat and then a sales hat? And like, you just get the whole flow of the whole journey. It's really, really rare. So what do you think is next for you, Sid? What are you most excited about that you're working on right now?
Right now, I'm most excited to see our brand expand. That's kind of where I'm sitting in the company right now. So really excited to see what we're going to pull through there and what we'll be able to offer everybody in different markets as we grow out. We're actually very grateful to be partnered with Raquel. So learning lots and helping lots within our org. Really excited for that. And like my 5-year plan, I'm really excited to that. Without saying too much, I want to have this massive acreage where I just help people in business and help their mental health when they're struggling in business. So I won't get too deep into that, but one day that's what we'll be doing. And I can't wait because my vision with that is I've gotten burnt out so many times and I've found ways to bounce back from it. So if I can find people who are, very ambitious and hustlers and like the people that go impact others, when they burn out and I help them get back on track, they can now take something I've taught them and teach it to 500 people. And even if that's just a freaking journal prompt, at least I've helped them a tiny bit. And that's my goal in creating like generational impact, is just sharing how I move through life with lots.
Oh, cool. I'm excited for that. I didn't know about that. So I'm excited. I can't wait to support all the things that you're doing. So where can people connect with you?
You can connect with me on Instagram. I'm most active on there. So Sydney _Everingham. Or if you ever want to just spend 15-20 minutes with me, I'm totally open to sharing whatever I can on a Zoom. So I do have a link for a Zoom call in my bio if there's any scripting or anything on there. By the way, I've now decided to just give my scripts out for free because I hope it helps everyone. So if anyone wants it.
Oh my gosh, we will drop that in the show notes for sure, because I'm sure people are going to want to know what your scripts look like. And as we wrap up, there is always one question that I ask every guest that comes on the show is, what does Sydney do to play bigger in business or in life?
I journal. That's how I play bigger in business and life. I'm very authentic and raw and vulnerable with myself. Every time I start a new notebook, I write myself a letter And this is a BRIX letter. So this is everything I want to accomplish in the term of being in this notebook. And I have a personal one right there, a personal journal over on my desk. And I'll write myself personal letters in there on where I need to, like, flaws within my character that I have to address, have my year-long goals in here. So that really helps me play bigger. When I write it on paper, it's a commitment to myself, and I'm not about to let myself down, because if I do, I let everyone else down. So yeah, that's my one.
I love the journaling. Do you journal at a certain time?
I did. And now it's more so, it's been 6 years I've been pretty consistent with it. So it's more, I know when I need it now, but 5 times a week at least. Yeah. And I have rules for my journal. I never shame myself, ever, ever, ever. I'll never put on paper shameful things about myself. If I need to do better, I come from a place of grace with myself, because I know I show up the best I can every single day. And there's a quote that I saw, and it's, your best will look different every single day, but as long as you're doing your best, that's all that matters. So that really sticks with me, and the whole grace thing I preach all the time. And yeah, always have a lot of empathy for yourself in your journal. I do cover pages at the beginning of every month. I wish I could, like, reach across and grab my personal one, but I'll write out a word for the month that is my focus word for myself. And then I'll write all the things I'm looking forward to that month, and I'll write down 4 goals. So, 17 workouts, drinking more water. And at the end of each day, I'll check off if I've hit it. And I decorate this page with stickers and stuff. So it's a very positive place for me to come at the end of my day, and I see my focus word, and I know that that's what I'm working towards that month. And that helps me play bigger very significantly, because I'm constantly playing towards that word.
Oh my gosh. I love how you just broke it down. You definitely need to have like a journal shop. I'm like, I have all these ideas for Sydney after we get off this recording. But thank you so much for being on the show. I super appreciate you. I love that you came into my life, and I'm excited for you, for your growth, and excited to really, really keep playing bigger, because I know you were so young. And if I could have had the wisdom that you had at your age, I can't even imagine what your next 10 years are going to look like.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And the opportunity to share all of this with everybody. I would love to hear if anything I said impacted you or helped move your business forward. And it was a really big honor to speak to everyone today.
Thanks, Sydney.